Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel on this incredibly busy weekend of pro wrestling. It's time for the Saturday night's main event build-up show. We're going to get to it right after this.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
And there is so much action this week in the world of pro wrestling. As I say, we've been previewing the big shows this weekend. One is down already. NXT Great American Bash is in the books. AEW All In Texas is still going on at the moment, so we might touch on a little bit throughout this stream as well. And then Saturday, its main event is coming up very, very soon. And then tomorrow night, of course, is Evolution. So we'll stick to the subject at hand as much as we can on this stream, at least. That, of course, as I say, is Saturday night's main event, where we've got a big, big main event to talk about indeed in Gunther versus Goldberg, which is apparently going to be Goldberg's final ever match. It's not just that, though. There's a few more other matches to talk about as well. But just going to get some comments here. Aiden is in the house. Good to see you, buddy. Glad you're doing well and able to join us. He says, hello, I just watched NXT. I have more questions than answers. Yeah. Again, we won't touch on NXT too much here, but overall, I thought it was an interesting show. Again, I've been watching them both side by side. Of course, earlier on, we did a build-up show for NXT and AEW. And I've had the AEW on a big screen with the audio on, I'll be honest. NXT, I'm kind of background watching. I might go back and watch some of the highlights and stuff like that. But what I got to say so far is that both of these shows have been quite enjoyable. But look, time now to shift our attention a little bit, at least, and focus on Saturday night's main event. Again, it's a big, big show in itself. Of course, we've talked about already. There's been a lot of chatter about how WWE have tried to counter AEW on this weekend. And it's not just with Saturday night's main event. Of course, it's with Great American Bash, which again is now technically in the books. And also with Evolution on Sunday night. Three somewhat big shows, varying in kind of, I guess, length and card length and stuff like that. But also newsworthy shows in themselves. You know, Saturday night's main event is coming up next, as I say, but NXT is in the books already. It was a good show, but I think there might be more stories coming out of Saturday night's main event itself, so that when All In finishes and all the news cycle is around them, they might steal some of it away. And we'll get to how that might happen later on in the stream. Also, of course, again, Evolution is a great opportunity for them to do that as well. And man, don't you just love it? All these companies going against each other means that we are just spoiled for choice. There's so much going on. So much so that I know people aren't watching all the shows live because it's difficult to even do two at once, don't get me wrong. But then staying up, you know, depending where you are in the world, is quite tough as well. Speaking of which, Saturday night's main event is, what are we? Here in the UK, it's 10:35. It starts 1 a.m. In the UK. So it's that just about 2.5 hours away, essentially, before Saturday night's main event kicks off. So let's run through some of the card here. Let's talk about some of the big matches and moments that we might get to see on the card. There you see is the original graphic for Saturday night's main event. You can see Goldberg there. No one spared, everyone speared. Now, I know it's just a kind of little phrase there, but is that hinting to something we might see? Because it says everyone as if there were going to be more people out there. The only other people I can picture being out there for this match would be Goldberg's son, because he's kind of tied into that storyline somewhat as well. But let's get into the card itself. As I say, Saturday night's main event heavily featured around Bill Goldberg's retirement, but it's not the only match on the card. We've also got LA Knight. Yeah. Against CM Punk. CM Punk, well, that was a slip, wasn't it? Seth freaking Rollins is what I meant to say. Going at it one-on-one, not for a title, but a bit of a grudge feud. Of course, again, they kind of have linked in together from the Money in Bank scenario, the King of Ring scenario as well. And I know Lucas is going to join us later on in the stream. He's got quite a few things he wants to get off his chest about this feud. So I'm interested to see what he's got to say with that one there. But generally speaking, I'm looking forward to it. I think the two good characters in decent portions of their career, but I'm not really sure where they go with this. Well, where I mean, Seth's going on with a briefcase, right? But where does it leave LA Knight? Unless he wins it and looks good to move on to something bigger, I'm not really sure what they're doing with LA Knight here, other than just kind of keeping him busy. But that's one of the matches we've got to talk about in more detail later on in the stream as well. Also, we've got Solo Sikoa, of course, the US champion after beating his cousin, Jacob Fatu, defending the title against his big brother, Jimmy Uso, Big Jim himself. Now, look, spoiler alert, I'm not massively confident that Big Jim's going to do it, but I'm looking forward to the match nonetheless. Will we see something big as far as more Bloodline scenarios? I mean, there's a lot of talk going on about the OTC 1, as apparently is going to be known, coming back soon. It could be tonight on Saturday night's main event. It could be here. It could be related to the Seth Rollins scenario. Of course, he did take away his wise band, but that is one of the matches we've got to look forward to. Also, we have Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. Now, if you saw SmackDown, you'll see that this leans heavily into the Jelly Roll situation. That's a phrase I never thought I'd ever say, but there we go. That's kind of leaning towards SummerSlam, it would seem. So maybe you see Jelly Roll again, maybe we see Logan Paul again, not quite sure, but some storyline progression surely going on here with this match as well. Talking about progression, well, it might be the end of the line and no more progress really for one Bill Goldberg, as you see on the right-hand side, challenging Gunther for the big gold belt. Not the same one technically that he held in the past, sort of, depending on how you trace lineage. We talked about this in depth on Friday night's big preview as well, how it's kind of possible that they let him retire with his title because he is synonymous with it, sort of. Now, to get into that, we're going to play some of our clips from last night's stream, Friday night's big preview, where I did break down this card in more detail. And then later on, I'm going to be joined by Lucas from the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, hopefully some friends from the wrestling media as well, to talk about this card in depth as well. Let's get to some more comments here. Aiden says, shot the money in the bank isn't on the line. I'm glad it's not, to be honest, mate. I don't like when they do that sort of thing. But hey, it would mean the match meant more. So I kind of get where you're coming from there. Jelly Roll was at ringside for Randy. I didn't know that. So yeah, thanks for that, Aiden. Always like doing these build-up shows. If you're new here, essentially what we do is get ourselves hyped up and in the mood to the, I say PLE, but it's not really a PLE. It's just a special event, right, for Saturday night's main event. But that's the whole point of these. We talk about last-minute rumors and kind of break down the card overall and talk about predictions. And again, have friends from the wrestling media world and more members of the Rebellious Noise crew joining us as well. So we're going to be doing that throughout tonight's stream. And again, you get things like this. Jelly Roll at ringside for Randy Orton. Apparently breaking news. Alan says, Roman Reigns returns tonight as the big dog and the crowd goes wild, not mild. I don't know about that, man. We can leave the big dog in the past, in my opinion. He got very mild reactions at times of that, and look, reinvented himself, I've got to say, as the tribal chief, and it's been fantastic. That was said on SmackDown. I didn't even get that, Aiden. Thanks for kind of let me know, mate. I did watch SmackDown highlights, but I watched the beginning of SmackDown, then I watched the rest of it through some highlights, but I didn't actually get that point there. So thanks for bringing that up. Now, I mentioned earlier on how we did a stream last night, which was Friday night's big preview, where we previewed all 4 of the shows. As I say, one is in the books already, NXT. AEW is currently on at the moment. Saturday night's main event is what we're talking about now, and we've also got Evolution tomorrow. So what we're going to do now is throw it over to my original predictions for Saturday night's main event from our big preview. Then after that, we're going to be back again with Lucas to break down this card even further and again talk about these last minute rumors that are flying around this big special event on Saturday night. I'm going to be in the background lurking as well, so if you've got any comments, fire away. I'll try and reply to as many as I can, and then when we go live, we'll pick out some of our favorites to dive into a little bit deeper as well. But for now, let's throw it over to our original preview of Saturday night's main event. Let's move into Saturday night's main event. Now, this is a card that isn't the biggest at the moment. Now, this is being recorded, of course, just before SmackDown itself, so there is a chance that they add a 5th match. If they haven't, then, well, it's going to be 4, and that's kind of what WWE do these days. We've talked about it quite often on this channel, especially myself and Lucas, and again, I know some of the people in the comments that we recognize have been in with us over the past few months where we've touched on these subjects as well, but WWE and Triple H, whoever it is, seem to really, really like the 5-match card, or 4. Evolution's very different. We'll touch on that later on. But there are only 4 matches on this card again. Potentially going to go to 5. We'll see where it goes. But as I record here on Friday night's big preview, there's only 4 matches to talk about. Is this a show that you're looking forward to? Because I am, because of just the hecticness of the weekend. But I've got to be honest, it's not the most exciting card. I think it'll be a good show, but just like NXT Great American Bash, I don't think they've put something together here that is kind of gonna blow us away as far as the card goes. Now, could there be big moments on the card? Yeah, of course there could. I do think that there might actually be some big surprises, maybe returns, and some controversial winners as well. We'll touch on that in a little bit. But let me know, guys, are you looking forward to Saturday night's main event? And if so, what match are you most looking forward to on the card? Going to quickly get to some of these comments here as well, because I see them stacking up here. Casper says, I didn't enjoy Roxanne Perez versus Kairi Sane on Raw. Something I didn't feel right about the match, but looking forward to seeing Jelly Roll and seeing what SmackDown has to offer tonight. But Raw did pick up. Christopher says, I have Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez to retain on Sunday. We're going to get to Evolution later on, but thanks for your comment, Christopher. Always good to see you in the house. Also talks a little bit of AEW here. Says Hangman Adam Page wins. We'll see how that goes. And says Jimmy Uso versus Solo Sikoa for the US Championship. Of course, that is one of the matches we're going to see here at Saturday night's main event. So without further ado, let's get into the card, guys. As I say, Saturday night's main event is a short card, but as you can see on the screen there, much of it is built around what is potentially going to be the last ever match of Bill Goldberg. We'll get to that match in a little bit, but we will touch on LA Knight, versus Seth Rollins first of all. Now, I've got to be honest, this is a match that, while it doesn't have much going for it as far as kind of a title or a stipulation, I'm excited by it because they've been telling a good story. Now, LA Knight, for me, is an interesting one. I've always said, I feel like he needs to take that next step, whether it's win the Money in the Bank, win the world title, or win the Royal Rumble, or the King of the Ring. Look, he was getting close, pretty much all of those. And I thought, all right, maybe we're going to give him the King of the Ring. But then he gets caught up in this storyline here, and I thought, well, it has to be worth it. And I've got to be honest, as much as it kind of messed with his King of the Ring hopes, I think what they've done with him around that tournament and being taken out of it pretty much and distracted often because of these guys, it's led to this cool storyline with Seth Rollins. Now, Seth Rollins, of course, has the Money in the Bank briefcase. Will that come up later on? We'll have to wait and see. But I think this match is going to be an entertaining one. But again, just not much on the line. But it's been a good feud. LA Knight is massively over. Still, it's crazy. Like they don't pull the trigger as far as giving him something other than the US title, which was good. But I think he deserves more. And he still somehow is massively over. Like the other night when you saw him coming out on Raw in the audience, attacking, and he's very much like an Attitude Era wrestler. But then in the audience, like the fact that they were cheering like mad, and into these little. Everybody knew what to do. LA Knight, like even in a scenario like that, I think it just comes across so well. So I want bigger and better for LA Knight. So I'd like to see him pick up the victory here. And I actually think he might, because I don't think there's much need in Seth Rollins doing it. I think it will look good. Yes, you could say, look, Seth's got the stable, so the stable will just attack LA Knight, and that's a get out of jail free card for LA Knight. It doesn't have to look strong. WWE can kind of get away with that booking. But I just think it would just be better for LA Knight to win. It doesn't hurt Seth, and then they can attack him after it. Maybe someone else can help level the score. Maybe there'll be a return. Maybe because Seth's frustrated, they bring in a new member and they attack LA Knight afterwards. Maybe that's the way they go about it. LA Knight picks up the victory, but Seth's the last man laughing, essentially, with his cackle. Let me know what you think, guys. Do you think this is going to be a fun match? And do you think it's going to be anything that leads to anything important? Of course, the big thing around at the moment in the future is SummerSlam. It's not that long away now. 2-night SummerSlam as well. So you got to think LA Knight's got to have a kind of prominent feature on that weekend as well. Well, I hope he does at least. Christopher says LA Knight wins. Yeah, hopefully that is the case. Again, big fan of Seth as well. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I mean, you won the Money in the Bank. What more do you need at the moment, other than the title, of course, which is going to try and get? Casper says Saturday night's main event: Gunther versus Goldberg, Randy Orton versus Drew, Seth Rollins versus LA Knight. For Seth Rollins to win in this one, a good feud and good storytelling. And I agree with you there, Casper. I've enjoyed what they've done so far. even if I wasn't the biggest fan of Seth Rollins winning the Money in the Bank, because I felt like, well, we've told that story already. But they are, they're telling a little bit of a different one. He's got a stable now. Right, let's see what the next match to talk about is. Of course, we touched on LA Knight versus Seth freaking Rollins. Let's talk about something that does have a title on the line, and that is the US Championship, of course, mentioned in the comments just a moment ago by Christopher and by Casper. We've got Jimmy Uso going up against his little brother Solo for the US gold. Now, I think this is going to be short and sweet, maybe even a short and sweet match, and that Solo Sikoa is going to keep the title, because if anyone's going to take it off him, it's probably more likely to be the man he took it from, and that is, of course, his cousin Jacob Fatu. Now, look, don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed Big Jim, and it'd be nice for Big Jim to get some big gold around his waist, but it would be hot potato in the title, and I don't really agree with that. Taking it off of Jacob was, I don't want to say risky, but like a bold move, because they're pushing him so much. But I think it's been great for Solo. I think it's done wonders, and he's rebuilding this new little stable, which isn't really the Bloodline anymore. I don't think you're even calling it that. But whatever it is, I enjoy it, and I want to see more of it. I want to see returns as well. Tamatonga coming back, that'll be quite good to see eventually. And he's got Talatonga, he's got Tonga Loa now. He's got the former Jeff Cobb, JC Mateo. So I'm liking what they're doing, and Solo's character's completely changed. Like, he's just funny, and I really like that. So just very entertaining, essentially. So I'm looking forward to this match for that reason. And I like Big Jim, and it'd be a nice little kind of moment for the two of them on a PLE going head-to-head for a title anyway. But for me, Solo Sikoa should win, and Solo Sikoa, in my opinion, will win here as well. So Saturday night's main event, no title change for me on this one. Let me know what you think, guys, down in the comments below. Do you think the title will be changing hands? If not, who do you think dethrones Solo Sikoa? I mean, SummerSlam, as I say, is coming up. Maybe that's where it happens. Maybe it will be Jacob Fatu getting it back. Maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't usually say this, but there's loads of talk about Roman Reigns coming back soon. And is soon Saturday night's main event? Maybe. Where does he fit in? Is it to beat up Seth? I mean, I think that is kind of likely. If LA Knight starts getting jumped and he needs help, then a big babyface coming out to help him, Roman Reigns, because of what happened at WrestleMania, and Seth basically helped getting Paul Heyman. They've dealt with CM Punk. CM Punk's had that feud with them over that a little bit, so it's time for Roman to do the same. Or could it be here? Former Bloodline. He's coming back apparently as the OTC one, which whatever. Surely that's just to keep doing the one. I don't know, because didn't one mean one tribal truth as well? One tribal chief, I should say. But they also said one true chief and one only chief, whatever. They didn't really clarify, but one of the potential things was one anyway. But point is, will he fit in here? Are they going to do more Bloodline storylines? I mean, they can. I think they will again at some point. Will they do it here, and will it be for Roman going after the US gold? I don't think so, but hey, it'd be big for the US gold. Christopher Leclerc says, tonight is ROH Supercard of Honor. Yeah, you are right, mate. As I say, we are recording this on Friday night. We are yet to see SmackDown and Ring of Honor. Hopefully 2 good shows there on what is already a stacked weekend. Of course, we're mainly focusing on NXT Great American Bash. If you missed us talking about that, we'll answer any comments on it. Don't get me wrong, but we've already touched on those matches in detail, so go back and check that out. And of course, as I say, we'll have our build-up show on Saturday night. If you're watching on Saturday night, what you're seeing here right now, and you're watching the replay of the stream, stay tuned, because we will be live again. But if you're with me on Friday night, this is really confusing, isn't it? Then tune in live on Saturday as well for the build-up show. Casper says, I didn't see this match. I forgot about this one. It was only announced recently, actually. But yeah, Solo Sikoa versus Jimmy. But Talatonga has arrived now. Yeah, will Talatonga be the difference maker in this match? Christopher Leclerc thinks it will be a win for Solo. And Casper also says Solo to retain in this against his little brother, Jimmy. It's his big brother, but I get where you're coming from there, Casper. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this match. Again, a nice opportunity for the brothers. And always good to see Big Jim get some airtime as well. Moving on from the Bloodline match, let's move into Randy Orton versus Big Drew McIntyre. Now, this is going to be a fun one because I think they're guys that work well together. They've had storylines that have kind of weaved in and out, essentially. Good to see Drew back. I'm a huge fan of Drew McIntyre's work and what he's been doing the past few years, especially. And of course, always great to see Randy Orton in these shows as well. Remember the last Saturday night's main event that we saw? Him versus John Cena for the title. Didn't go well for him. Hopefully, he'll have a better night here. But then again, hopefully not, because I'm also, as I say, a big fan of Drew McIntyre. And I think if Drew's coming back from, a little bit of time away, he probably needs to look strong. So I think him winning is probably the best best way forward here, essentially. Speaking of Drew McIntyre, we have had the opportunity to chat to Drew McIntyre on this very channel. If you haven't already, go back and check it out. We talked about the story behind the match that nearly gave him his breakout moment. No spoilers, but go check it out on this very channel. He plays a big, mean, tough guy on TV, but it was actually very nice to us. But if you haven't already, subscribe and you'll find more content like that on this channel. Christopher thinks Randy Orton's going to win this one. I think Randy Orton could win it. I mean, lately he's not had much luck, right? As I say, he got screwed out of his match at Saturday night's main event. He didn't win recently against Cody as well in the King of the Ring. So maybe he doesn't, and that's what we're leading towards. Him finally turning heel again. I said it on the last streams we were doing about him facing Cody at the King of the Ring. I felt like him turning heel on Cody might happen, but wouldn't have been as good as it being a shock if he won in the same match as him. So maybe they've took their foot off the gas, so to speak, to do that in the future. Cody himself, potentially could be going away for a bit because, he's going to be filming a movie soon. So maybe we're going to see him kind of say goodbye for a bit after SummerSlam. We'll have to wait and see. But again, as we get closer to SummerSlam, we'll talk a little bit more about that in more detail, I'm sure. If you haven't already, subscribe. And I'm sure we'll do some build-up shows for that as well. Christopher says, if Randy Orton loses, he will turn heel. Yeah, see, I think it will happen. Maybe not on this show, but I think it will lead to that. Casper says Randy Orton has to win for me in this one, but a big fan of Drew McIntyre's work. I mean, if you look at it like that, Randy's not had many wins lately, so maybe, as you say, he has to win for that reason. You can also argue Drew coming back has to look strong as well. And out of the two of them, I think the other one, there's a better story to tell with one of these losing, and that's Randy Orton. That's him losing and just kind of getting a bit too annoyed by it, basically, and turning into big bad Randy Orton once again. Women's Evolution, I'm really looking forward to. So am I. Casper will be breaking down that card right after the Saturday night's main event. Once to stay tuned for that as well. But sticking with Saturday night's main event, let's take it back to the subjects at hand there. And again, we'll pick up where we left off with Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. For me, as I say, I think it's going to be a victory for Drew McIntyre. Let's move into the next match. And this is our main event. Gunther defending his title against Goldberg. Now, this one is interesting. Where do we start? First of all, it's been sort of promoted like it's Goldberg's last match. I'm going to take it at face value, and I'm going to say it is Goldberg's last match, right? So I'm going to predict on those terms. But even that makes it difficult, because usually the age-old thing, you go out on your back, you put the guy over, right? But, and this isn't the thing about Bill Goldberg the man, this is about Bill Goldberg the character, and WWE and WCW in the past who have booked him. Bill Goldberg don't lose a lot. So I think if there was a character that made sense going out on top because of the way he was booked in the past, not saying because of what it means for the other guys involved or the future of the business, but just because of the way his story had been up until that point, the rest of his career, is Bill Goldberg. And Goldberg winning what is now surely considered to actually be the lineage of the WCW title, because it's still the big gold, a similar design at least. When they brought back the World Heavyweight Championship, which was the same name for what they gave the big gold once they took the WCW title away from it, on Raw in 2003, and then kind of brought it in and out and all that kind of stuff, they kind of tried to act like it wasn't the same, but I feel like it is. And the visual of Goldberg holding up the big gold once again in his final match, a title that, yes, it's not exactly the same design. Yes, it's not exactly the same title lineage almost, and it's not the same name, but we get it, right? It's the big gold and it is big Bill Goldberg. they kind of go together, right? There you go. I've sold it, right? Surely. Look, I'm not saying it's what I want to happen, but it's what I can see happening. It just makes sense, sort of. The reason it doesn't make sense is because Gunther could benefit from this, right? And he's the world champion, right? So you got a problem if Goldberg wins and retires. Yeah, that's good for Goldberg. That ain't good for the belt. You could argue it is good for the belt because that name on that kind of new lineage is kind of good. It's a big name, but at the same time, if you're saying it's attached to the old lineage, it doesn't need it, right? So it's a tough one. So would Goldberg win and retire as champ, and then they have to do a tournament? Would Gunther then have to win the title back again, or would he not? Or would he just get given it back and be 3-time champion already? I mean, bearing in mind, he's only just got the title back as well, not that long ago. And, you know, he lost it in kind of controversial fashion, you know, tap into his own sleeper. It just was not really a good look. Although I was happy for Jey Uso at the time, and I was happy for Gunther to get it back, and happy for Jay's run and all that. I think for the most part, it's been a good story to tell. You can't deny it's been a little bit messy and a bit confusing, and it has to be worth the payoff. If the payoff is just to have Bill Goldberg retire with a title and give it back to someone, I don't think that's a good look, but I can kind of understand it at the same time. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there's going to be a lot of fans out there who don't want to see that because that's the way WWE booked him for quite some time. It was different in 2003 when he signed and joined WWE. He was kind of booked differently. His matches were different to how they were in WCW. But since he returned, 2017 or whatever it was, remember when he beat Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, just horrible stuff. Always in the title picture, not around as much as he should be. And this has come from, I actually like Goldberg, right? But this new generation, I don't think they get him as much. And he was over pushed, but that's part of his character. So you can kind of forgive it. And again, I want to find out what you guys think in the comments, but also on the build-up show for Saturday night's main event. I'm really looking forward to talking about this with hopefully some guests and talking about this maybe with Lucas as well, because I know he's got some interesting thoughts on Goldberg and the way he's positioned in WWE as well. So stay tuned for that sort of thing. But for me, I could kind of see it happening, but kind of enough. I don't know. I mean, the other option is Gunther wins and Goldberg does the traditional thing and goes out looking up at the lights. I've got to be honest. I've not enjoyed seeing Goldberg limp, and I feel bad for him. I want him to have his moment. At least he deserves a big moment to retire on. I feel bad, and again, we'll touch on this, I'm sure, more over the weekend. That is kind of come at a time to counter-program another show, and therefore all of these shows seem to have suffered with ticket sales, and maybe will suffer with buy rates and things like that as well. But anyway, he deserves a big moment. Does he deserve to be champion when he retires? I don't know. But I like Gunther. I want Gunther to look strong. Now, the other option, we mentioned him earlier on, is Seth Rollins. Is that your get out of jail free card here? Do they make Goldberg win and Seth cashes in and is the new champion, getting back the title that he, had for a long time, elevated himself when it was seen as a new title? Because I do feel like they might be doing that. And then they might be able to get back to CM Punk and him for the title. Maybe at SummerSlam. Maybe not. Maybe LA Knight. I don't know. But is that how they get out of this? Do they give it to LA Knight? And I say get out of it as if Gunther's a bad option. I honestly think Gunther has the title back because of the Goldberg match, which makes me think it was so that Goldberg can win the title. Because Gunther Goldberg could have happened without the title. They could have kept it on Jay, but they haven't. So that's why I'm leaning towards Gunther winning the title, losing the title, I should say, to Goldberg, and it being solved by Seth. Now, I say solved because that has the future thing. They don't have to do a tournament or anything like that. But does that give kind of us a new problem of hot potato in the title? Look, we did it with a cash in at WrestleMania. I thought it was really funny when Damian Priest come out and beat Drew. I thought it was well executed. Gets the numbers up on that new lineage as well. So sometimes it works, sometimes it's okay. But here, if the goal is to have the final moment of Bill Goldberg's career, him holding up the big gold once again, sort of, Does that count when he's now lost it straight away and he's on his back anyway? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think it's going to happen? What do you think of my idea? Even if, I'm not even sure I want it to happen. I just think it might be what WWE do. They might give it to Goldberg, and then to get out of it, because they want to deal with it going forward, they might give it to Seth. So it feels like maybe the best of both worlds if they actually want to give it to Goldberg. And it seems like, judging by the past few years, they want to give everything they can to Goldberg. So we'll see. Christopher Leclerc thinks Goldberg will win, but thinks it will be by DQ. Completely different route there. So yeah, possibly is what we're going to see. Casper says, I'm looking forward to this one. Gunther versus Bill Goldberg. I was only saying Gunther to win, but Bill Goldberg's retirement match is intriguing. Good for Goldberg, but as you said, it's not good for the belt. Casper also says, I hope they pull the trigger. I want Goldberg to have his moment. I agree. Casper, what else have you said here? I agree as well. Not a fan of hot potato in the title. It's always a risk, isn't it? Look, whatever they do, it's gonna create stories, right? Even if Gunther retains, I think there'll be people going, oh, why? Even if Gunther retains, there'll be people saying, well, did this need to be for the title? Could that still not have been on Jay? Why couldn't they have just had the match without the title? Because that is the thing. It could have been Gunther kind of a kind of not a similar act, but just a big meaty man, as Big E would say. Gunther Goldberg makes sense. Did it need to be for a title? No. Come the end of Saturday night's main event, would it make more sense? Maybe. We'll have to see. But again, let me know in the comments what you think of the Saturday night's main event card. As I say, at time of recording, only 4 matches. Potentially could go up to 5. Who knows, even maybe 6. But at the time, there's only 4. Hope you've enjoyed my predictions there.
All right, so that was what I thought of things this time last night, but we're 24 hours removed, and yet we are just 2 hours away from Saturday night's main event kick it off. We are here for the build-up show. My name is Scott. Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. What you were watching there was part of our Friday night's big preview, and a thank you to everyone that joined us for that stream last night, and of course everyone that joined us for our Great American Bash and All in Texas build-up show as well. Speaking of which, Great American Bash is now in the books. All in Texas is still going on. A lot of cool action going on there. I don't know how much we'll mention because I don't want to spoil things, but we're in a kind of modern world, right? Things are all over the place as far as this sort of news, and it's been a good show so far. But we now turn our attention to Saturday night's main event. You are tuned into the build-up show, and what we do here is get us and you hyped up and in the mood for the big PLE. Well, I say PLE, this is just a special event, but still a big show on WWE's calendar, especially since they've revived Saturday night's main event for these special occasions, but also for occasions where it seems like they want to do one over their rivals. But we've talked about that already. Let's dive into the card itself and also dive into some of these comments here. Again, I've been in the background seeing some of these as well and replied to some of you, of course, already. But these ones I haven't quite got to just yet. So Aiden says, I think Big Jim wins the title at SummerSlam. A little bit of a way away, but we were talking in the chat about whether or not he could pick up US Gold tonight. F. Sweezy is in the house again. Always good to see you, buddy. He says, I'm most excited for Goldberg. Also, Aiden is with us tonight as well. Said, it wasn't funny when Drew lost the belt due to a cash-in. I thought it was hilarious. But Aiden, I appreciate, as a fellow Scot, it might not have been a good day at the office for you, mate. But I enjoyed it. F. Sweezy says 6, but it is 6. Yeah, that's where we're in. We're in, buddy. We might have been 30 seconds late, but I appreciate you keeping us on top of things. What does number 1 mean with Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling? What does number 1 mean in what way? I don't know. What was that in reference to? Sorry, buddy. Tell me what you mean there. F. Sweezy. Okay. So you were talking about the time we were coming in. I gotcha. Right. I know, Aiden, you're biased because you're Scottish. Right, I'm going to get Lucas in the chat very, very soon, but we are here to break down, again, all things Saturday night main event. Not the biggest card when you compare it to everything else going on this weekend, but still an interesting one nonetheless. So let's throw it over to Lucas. How you doing, mate? Good to see you.
Hi there.
How you feeling, mate? We're a few hours into a mental wrestling night, and we've still got another big show to go. What are your thoughts?
We've still got one going on still.
I know. Tell me, I've got it on in the background. I'm trying to stay professional.
Yeah, I thought NXT was okay. Didn't obviously. It's hard when you're watching it. So you're watching. They put themselves side by side with AEW, and obviously AW is having a big show, and NXT is obviously having a kind of mid-level kind of show, I'd say.
Yeah.
But what I'd just say to you, I think NXT definitely now needs to do more touring in order to get these ticket sales up, or like find like another residency or something. They can alternate between maybe like a month at a time to different locations, because like the fact is, it seems to suffer every time they go to a PLE. They seem to suffer.
Yeah.
And obviously that's even outside of this weekend's obviously extras that we got. But all in, I thought NXT was like an okay to good show. I think the main event and the Falls Count Anywhere matches in particular were very, very, very good.
Yeah.
I think those are, if nothing else, they're things to go out the way for. I mean, the contract segment, like, to be fair, like, as much as it was a bit odd having that segment as part of the PLE, I think that it all kind of mixed in with other stories they're building up to, and like other batch segments they had. It didn't feel too out of place. It wasn't like it was the only thing that wasn't wrestling. They had obviously a number of promos throughout the night, featuring the ongoing feud with Tony D'Angelo and the family, as well as setting up seemingly a rematch for the NXT Championship between Obafemi and Yoshiki.
Very quickly, yeah.
Yeah, very quickly. I think that might be the quickest they've done something. But also, they use the opportunity to promote like a very, very stacked card for Tuesday night's NXT, which will see Dark Satan 6-man tag action, a triple threat between the family members, and I think a few other things were confirmed. So like they are keeping the ball kind of rolling.
Yeah.
With this, and this may be a tactic they decided maybe late on. They decided, look, end of the day, this show doesn't look like it's going to sell out. They're referring to the Great American Bash tonight, but let's just try and get as many eyes on the product as possible, so that obviously when we come to Netflix on Tuesday and CW on Tuesday, we have like more people watching the product we've got.
Yeah.
But it does seem that, again, I don't want to use the term winners and losers here. It's very hard. It's very difficult, obviously, because it's two completely different levels of show. You're talking AEW's WrestleMania going up against obviously the developmental brands kind of B-level pay-per-view, but it does seem that AEW is having a very good one.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of positive reception to the matches so far. I think, are they still on the women's gauntlet, or they moved?
That's over now. They are now moving into the tag team title match.
Okay, so Hurt Syndicate.
So I think this will be, including this, 4 matches to go. So still, I mean, it might be cutting it fine. It might be getting very close to the start time of Saturday night's main event, which is kind of shocking, really. I mean, look, we always joke that AEW shows go on way too long, and they do. But this is, as you say, kind of their WrestleMania. So if any show goes long, it's this one. But to go right up down to the wire, essentially, to when Saturday night's main event, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not they do that. And I'm kind of gutted as well. I expected to maybe not be able to pay as much attention to the main event, but there's a lot of matches I want to kind of keep my eye on. But hey, I'm here to do a job. We're here to break down Saturday night's main event and get us hyped up about that as well. Look, any big news that flies around the wrestling scene, we're going to be here to try and report it as and when we can anyway. But let's dive into Saturday night's main event, and of course some of these comments we've got going on here as well. Just to clarify, what do we have? Aiden was asking, Grim Reaper was asking what time it kicked off tonight. And as Aiden says, it is 1 a.m. A little bit confusion that maybe it was 12 a.m. We're talking UK time here, of course. But as Aiden points out, Evolution tomorrow night will be, night going into the next day at 12 a.m. at least as well. We do have just under 2 hours, basically, until we get to Saturday night's main event kicking off. And it's only a 4-match card, which is kind of surprising, because I did say on last night's preview, look, we hadn't seen SmackDown yet. Maybe they were going to add another match, especially considering they were battling a rival promotion, essentially. Come on, we all know why they put this show on this weekend. So I was a little surprised that it was only a 4-match card. If you could have added a 5th match, Lucas, what do you think it could have or should have been?
See, I want them to go outside the box of these things a little bit. I guess the easy one at the moment could have been to have Damian Priest and Aleister Black have their match. That's been kind of brewing for a couple of weeks now, at least. But I would have liked to see like a tag team match, being deadly honest. I mean,
the tag titles changed hands, so that would have been nice.
Yeah, just have a tag title change. Yeah, I mean, I'll just throw that on the PLE. I guess Saturday night's main event, but. Yeah, I think obviously given the format of how they do things, and I guess to be fair, there's a couple of matches there that might go quite long anyway. as in TV time long.
Mm.
And you have to imagine Cody's going to make an appearance. You have to imagine. Just even if it's just like a little bit at the end or something, or like, just make an appearance. But no, I mean, yeah, I'd have probably put the tag titles on, or the Damian Priest stuff, or even they wanted to turn that into a tag match, like Priest and Truth against Black and someone, for example. Black and Kamala Hayes maybe he's not been doing anything for ages. Yeah, or just like I don't know, just something different. That's the thing. Like when I look for the card tonight, I'm just like, it's just 4 matches. It's 4 singles matches. Fair enough. There is obviously the big main event, which we'll get to. There's quite a lot of talking points that can come out of that match in particular.
Yeah.
The rest of the card is still quite default. So something I think that they used to do quite well with all the cards. They used to make sure they ticked a lot of boxes of variety, like before the main event. Whereas now I don't think they do that so much. I just think, like a lot you could ask. You could sub a lot of the matches for anyone. We have got obviously Jelly Roll will be in the corner of Randy Orton tonight, following on from his appearance on SmackDown last night. Looking likely to be setting up a tag team match at SummerSlam. But we will be interested to see whether any of the actual tag team belts get defended at that show. There's 3 sets.
I mean, it's a 2-nighter, mate. They bloody better, Like...
Yeah, you'd think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jelly Roll's obviously in the corner of Randy Orton. So there's a bit of interest with that, but it has just been kind of shoehorned in a little bit. And obviously there is a lack of women's matches as well, which one could argue is because obviously Evolution is the next night.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, NXT have kind of proven that, to not be a problem, because they had 2 of the matches they had tonight featured women that will be on Evolution tomorrow night, including the main event, which was actually very, very good.
It was. Again, I was kind of background watching it, but I was very surprised it went on last because, again, for those that didn't join us for the preview last night or for our build-up show earlier on, I saw this as kind of like a go-home type show to advertise another match, and it kind of still was that, but I think they performed very, very well. So credit where it's due, but then again, it kind of plays into my whole theory that Obafemi's world title reign isn't quite what you'd expect either. But look, we've touched NXT quite a bit already, so let's move into Saturday night's main event a little bit more. But before we do, great comment here from Aiden. It says, I'm going to be honest, I think Evolution will be better than Saturday night's main event, and I completely agree. I think it will be better than Saturday night's main event. Simply put, there are 7 matches, I think it is, and there are way more interesting matches as well. There are some big names on Saturday night's main event, but there's only one where I think there could be big storyline progression, and that is ironically the one where someone's career might be ended. We might see something big happen there, and again, we'll touch on it later, but there's also a kind of get out of jail free card. Again, you would have seen my preview from last night and what I was kind of talking about there as well, so we'll get to that later on. But let's break down the card match by match as well. Again, first of all, let's bring up the Saturday night's main event graphic, which I love, by the way. I know not everyone's a big fan of Bill Goldberg, but for a nostalgia merchant like me, it's nice to see him get his kind of farewell. I mean, there were talks a little while ago that WWE weren't going to book it, and he was even thinking about doing his own thing or going to AEW. But again, we'll touch on Goldberg in a bit more detail later on, but just want to draw attention to that lovely poster we've got there. Whether you're a Goldberg fan or not, you've got to appreciate that. You've also got to appreciate the work that LA Knight's been putting in lately, guys, because not only did he fail to win the Money in the Bank, he failed to win the King of the Ring. Somehow, the man is still over as Rover, and the past 2 shows have really kind of highlighted that for me. When he was in the crowd at on Monday Night Raw after attacking Seth Rollins, and then also on SmackDown when he was kind of facing off against the new whatever they're called, MFTs and all that, and Paul Heyman, the fans were just so behind him. Now the best thing about this match is that we get to see LA Knight perform, which is fun, and we get to see when fun seeing fans behind him and stuff like that. And we get to see Seth Rollins maybe do something interesting with his stable. But this is one that's been interwoven over the past few weeks, and I wasn't too thrilled with them taking LA Knight out of both those competitions. But they've kind of, I've got to give it to him, they've kind of given him a somewhat important storyline. But it all just depends on where do we go from here. Seth can go on with his briefcase, but what does LA Knight do after this feud? Unless he beats Seth, it's not really good kind of optics for the man. So what are your thoughts on this feud overall, Lucas, and who do you think's going over eventually?
Well, the problem they've created for themselves is that LA Knight's sort of completed SmackDown, apart from winning the championship.
Yeah.
At present,
No pun intended, by the way, with that. Yeah.
which doesn't seem something that they're looking to do, as he's not obviously scheduled to face John Cena anytime soon.
Yeah.
And so there was talk about him moving to Monday Night Raw, and potentially this being the start of that happening. As we've seen, over the past few months, the brand split rules are kind of out the window anyway. So he's been able to get this match without obviously even being a Monday Night Raw superstar.
Yeah, true.
So this actually highlights a bigger problem with Seth Rollins, though, that I have with Seth Rollins. At the moment, Seth Rollins is feuding with numerous people, and is taking up a lot of TV time on Raw. He's stable. I hate to say it, which is controversial. I think the comments might pop up a little bit, but there is no chemistry between Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. It just,
you think?
It's just not there. The story is not there. Like it's, and even the stable, it all feels like very disjointed. And they're kind of already seemingly rushing towards it, somewhat having dissension / causing maybe being towards the end of it potentially, from how they booked it. I thought that the addition of Bron Breakker was done very, very well. It made sense. The one of Bronson Reed, not so much. I think that it's very difficult from a fan perspective to get behind the belief that Rollins was taken out by like 6 tsunamis by this guy. I welcomed him into this stable. I think also the fact the stable's not got a name yet. It all feels very...
Yeah, it's been a long time without a name.
Since WrestleMania, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
When obviously, Seth and Heyman joined forces, and then the next night after, Bron Breakker joined, and then was it Sundance Main Event after that, I think?
I think it was, yeah.
A few weeks after that, wasn't it? So, and I think that the problem I'm having with a lot of it is that, for me, it's taken up a lot of TV time. Raw, when you add in the Seth Rollins segments plus the Judgment Day segments, it's over half the show. This
is the thing. Stables tend to be booked like that anyway, but I think at least with the Judgment Day, like especially in their peak, I mean, I'm enjoying what they're doing at the moment. I think they're starting to kind of pick back up. At least it made sense. Like they were money. That's what people were tuning in for, was the Judgment Day. The Hurt Business, a similar story. The Bloodline, a similar story as well. But this stable is kind of, it's like we're being told they're important rather than them feeling important. I mean, Aiden feels like this stable's growing on him. And don't get me wrong, I do like things about it and I do see potential, but I think it is things like what Lucas is saying there. There's a lack of a name. They're already kind of playing with the dissension. They look like, this is a weird thing to say, but they look just like different stars. Yeah. Braun and Braun together look like they should be fighting each other, not friends. They look like, because I think we've been conditioned to think both these guys come through NXT. They've both been pushed in a similar way. Whereas, like Evolution, for example, you had the two youngsters, but they felt very different to each other. Batista and Randy Orton felt very different. And Triple H and kind of obviously Ric Flair to really push it. This time around, you've got Paul Heyman, one of the greatest kind of minds in the game and the greatest kind of talkers and managers, and Seth Rollins, first ballot Hall of Famer, so they say. But at the same time, there's just something, as you say, just not quite clicking with it. I do like the whole kind of story. I mean, if you're going to use them, like, I think using them in a way where someone like LA Knight is kind of just trying to take down the big bad group is a decent story to tell, but it's got to go somewhere else beyond this. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Roman Reigns coming back. I mean, that could feature into this match. It could feature into the more Bloodline adjacent match. Who knows? Probably not. Probably more likely here, if I'm honest, because of the whole Seth Rollins Roman Reigns connection. I don't see him doing a Bloodline thing just yet again with Roman Reigns. But what are your thoughts on that, mate? What are your thoughts on Roman potentially coming back here to kind of make this match make a little bit more sense and maybe almost make the save for LA Knight?
I prefer that over Roman being involved in the Bloodline again. Particularly, I think the problem they keep finding themselves is when they have wrestlers that are part-time, is they keep putting them back with the same people over and over and over again. We're seeing it. We could argue we're seeing it similarly with John Cena now and Cody Rhodes. The fact that we're now going to get, pretty much half of these dates now have been built up with one feud.
I mean, Brock and Goldberg is probably the best example, right? Those guys, and then floating in and around Roman Reigns as well. But yeah.
Or even previously when Brock Lesnar was dominating stuff, and he pretty much bounced between, working with Rollins, working with Reigns, and that was pretty much it for what. He did the odd match here and there with other people. But yeah, I think that I prefer that over the case, but I don't think that Roman will return as part of tonight. Particularly because of something I think that will happen later on. Unless there is a way to link it all together, would be very messy, and we have to get to that much later on as it does involve the main event.
Yeah.
Or the show, I believe, will be the last match. I'll be very surprised if I think is the last over it. But I think it will be a very good match, this, which annoyingly will be butchered by the 1,000 adverts that we're getting throughout it, no doubt, over here. But I think it's annoying with this one. Both men kind of need the win, but I think Knight kind of needs it more, because like you say, he was unsuccessful with Money in the Bank, King of the Ring. Hasn't really done much in terms of getting wins since he lost the US title, and at the moment obviously it does seem the US title is maybe as high as he can go on SmackDown because of obviously the situation with the belt on that brand. I feel that something they've got to stop doing, and again this will come time more to tomorrow as well, is they've got to stop throwing their eggs in one basket. Like we saw Liv Morgan, again she was in about 4 feuds, she gets injured, and then they've had to rewrite a view for her, apparently. She was apparently meant to be at every match. But we've got a situation here where Rollins is feuding with Penta, with LA Knight, with Punk still, the bottom one won't ever go away. Yeah,
like overlapping can work and it can be beneficial, but as you say, sometimes it ends up being a risky move, like with Liv, where it kind of just wipes out so many stories at once, but also it's kind of disjointed and not really making sense. And we've talked about this already quite a bit on the channel, but their PLEs are booked that way as well. We're already in SummerSlam season. We haven't even got Saturday night's main event, and we've got Evolution this weekend. We've only just had Crown Jewel, so it's kind of, sometimes it works, but sometimes it can work against them. And again, I think that comes into booking cards, but also booking the storylines, as you're saying, booking people's kind of paths as well. Aiden agrees. He does see a turn maybe almost coming already. I think it would be a big shame if they gave up on the group so soon, but they are kind of flirting with that idea, it would feel. And as you say, Lucas, I think LA Knight getting a win is probably what's more needed here from both sides, because again, Seth can move on to something else and LA Knight needs to look strong. The only way it works other than that is a potential Roman Reigns save, because Seth does have a group to beat him up. Maybe Penta comes out as well, like he did a little while back, to kind of help as well.
Faster than he did at Night of Champions. So.
Yeah, it wasn't quite a Jeff Hardy thing, and the good thing was he weren't coming out to save Cena. That's what I think we've got to get clear. He wasn't Cena's a bad guy. So he thought, you know what, let me get my stuff in. And that's fine with me. I don't mind that too much. But yeah, Night of Champions was a crazy ending. But we could get something similar here. I do want to know what people in the comments think. Do we think we're going to get Roman Reigns tonight? And if so, where do we get him? Because as Lucas said, we've got some things to talk about with the main event that might kind of hold off on Roman Reigns here a little bit as far as this storyline goes, but he could also show up in the bloodline as well. So it'd be interesting to see. If Roman doesn't come back tonight, then he's got to come back before SummerSlam, in my opinion, because they've got to sell tickets, right? It's a 2-night event. Yeah, SummerSlam. Yeah, it's big in a big market like New York, New Jersey, but tickets aren't as fast as people expected. And again, it's the first time they're doing a 2-night thing. They're going to want to book. They want to book it so that people know Roman's there, in my opinion. Every other year, you can make Roman come back at SummerSlam. And that's a big pop, and it's a great moment before SummerSlam. People go into it hoping it will happen. But sometimes you need that guarantee before you go into an event that someone big's going to be there. And I think that's going to be the case with Roman Reigns. So what are your thoughts, if you had to say, Lucas, if it's not tonight, are we seeing him come back literally on SmackDown, on Raw? Where are we seeing it?
Yeah, I think it's got to be within the next 7 days, ideally. And obviously, we know tomorrow night it's an all-women's pay-per-view, so
maybe, you never know. But I mean, this is why I think it could be tonight, because again, we keep saying that this is about stealing the headlines. Let's be honest. So how better? Like no matter what happens at AEW All In, again, it's still on at the moment. Been an enjoyable show. I'll try and catch up with a bit more in depth tomorrow as well. But realistically, if Roman Reigns comes back, that's part of the news cycle.
Yeah.
So and people know, like, and this isn't a dig to AEW, but like WWE videos do better. So you could have the biggest return shocking thing at AEW, but you could have someone that was gone 2 months in WWE, but one of the biggest stars in the modern era, and it be, do tenfold the kind of clicks essentially. So
yeah, it's like all the stuff we saw in the year with The Rock. Nothing happened afterwards. And it budge, but it got a lot of views. It got a lot of eyes on the product.
that's why I think he might be coming back tonight, but we'll see.
Rock.
No, Roman Reigns. I'm not going that bad with it, but I mean that would be really to steal some views and clicks, mate. All right, let's bring it back to the card itself, though. Again, we've been talking about the the Seth Rollins versus LA Knight match. Let's move into again the other opportunity for Roman Reigns to come back, and of course that is to face off against his cousins. We've got Solo Sikoa, the US champion, defending against Big Jim, who again I'm very, very pleased to see doing well these days, and kind of slightly leaning into a bit more of a Jey Uso type character, but still in his own way and still very true to the Uso spirit of them as a tag team. So I've enjoyed seeing what Jimmy's done, and I'm glad he's getting an opportunity like this. I don't see him winning. I don't think he should win, and I think Solo is kind of been rejuvenated lately. I mean, I mentioned this about a month ago, how I'm starting to like his new version of his character. He's just a silly man. He's not this kind of, I don't talk, take me seriously, I'm the new tribal chief anymore, which just didn't work in the end. He's basically just used to his strengths now, and I think it's really coming across well. He's building up a new feud, a new stable, I should say, similar to the old bloodline, or his bloodline at least, but not giving it that name, trying to make a point that this is something new, this is something different. And I was shocked that they took the title off of Jacob, but I'd be even more shocked if they took it off of Solo now, because I think he deserves to have it at this moment in time, and I think it's going to make him and this stable. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the fact that they've used this stable debuting to kind of write Jacob for 2 off, I think should speak volumes. Though I would be very annoyed if Jacob does appear tonight. I think they need to give it some time.
Yeah, don't take away from it.
To not obviously downplay what's happened. I don't anticipate a title change happening tonight. I think I feel that if Solo was facing anyone, to be fair. But I think that the end goal shortly will be to put the Usos back together as a tag team. So I think that, Solo winning here with obviously interference will then lead to Jimmy having only one thing to want to do.
Good shout.
Uso. And so I would maybe potentially see that maybe even happening tonight. Over the Roman Reigns thing in this match.
That's a great point. Especially at SummerSlam coming up, that's a big opportunity there.
People are aware that with the T-shirt that's been released, or the merchandise that's been released with the new MFT stable, certain person is missing, obviously, from that. So it does feel a bit like they're going to set up a big tag match down the line.
Yeah.
And with a pay-per-view called Survivor Series in November, there's plenty of time to kind of set that up. And it can be done with or without Roman's involvement, and I think it should be done without his involvement personally, as I think we've seen enough of this kind of which side are you on of the bloodline.
Yeah.
And it will help make it its own thing, which I think is very crucial. I think everything that Solo's done, everything Solo did last year, it was very much in the shadow of Roman Reigns. It was the problem. I think that we were just anticipating whenever Roman returns, that's going to be the end of it. But now he's able to do stuff of his own thing. But I anticipate lots of interference in this match either way. But Solo Sikoa still to leave as the champ.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point again about Jey Uso potentially being the one to kind of level things up here with Jimmy. And again, as we lead into SummerSlam, it does kind of make sense. And I think you're completely right there about Solo being overshadowed by Roman. So I don't think this is where Roman would come back, although the OTC 1 phrase that people are talking about him using when he comes back makes you think, why is the 1 coming from? Is that to kind of define who he is again, which we've already done with the OTC name in the first place? But maybe that's not the case, and hopefully it's not, because again, I think while I wouldn't mind in the future revisiting it, I do think it's better to kind of keep it separate. And the funny thing is, I feel like Jacob, a lot of people would say he kind of took away from Solo. He became what they expected Solo to be. But
Mm.
now he's almost become the thing that's rejuvenated Solo, because going against Jacob has been a lot easier than going against Roman for Solo. So it might actually work out pretty well. And again, we got a new version of Solo, new version of his stable. And so far, so good. A few more comments here I'm going to get to as well from Aiden. Says Seth loses, but however wins later in the night. Little spoiler there. We'll get to that later on as well. But also says he doesn't think there will be Roman Reigns tonight. But at least not in that first match that we were talking about. Of course, the LA Knight versus Seth Rollins match, which was, I think, if he's going to show up, that will be where it'll be. Aiden says maybe Seth cashes in and then Roman hits Seth. Possible, but there are so many kind of possible scenarios in that main event. Again, we'll get there in a bit. Roman might cost Seth or attack Seth, or Seth wins the belt. That's why, says Aiden. And there's a Big Jim loses. However, we also have Solo beat, but the ref will be knocked out. Daniel Wiley's in the house. Always good to see you, Daniel. Hope you're doing well, mate. Hope you're looking forward to Saturday night's main event. What a big weekend we've got. Of course, AEW All In is still on. NXT Great American Bash is in the books. Saturday night's main event is what you're seeing us preview now, but we've got Evolution tomorrow as well. So if you haven't already, guys, please subscribe. Check out more of our content. Of course, we recognize some of these names in the chat, but it's always nice when a new person pops in as well. Always good to see you guys. And appreciate you all. Daniel Wiley just mentioned there, I know it's not wrestling related, but we did talk about this a little bit on last night's show. Rest in peace, our number 20, You'll Never Walk Alone. I know Daniel is a Liverpool fan. Of course, a sad passing of Diego Jota and his younger brother. Very, very sad indeed. So, thoughts and prayers, of course, go out to their family there as well. Bringing it back to a little bit of pro wrestling, though, let's bring it back to Saturday night's main event and the card. Again, want to know what you think of the show overall. It's only 4 matches, but are you excited about this? Is it one of the most kind of exciting shows of the weekend? For me, if I had to rank them, and we're, again, partway through one of them, one's in the books already, but all along I've been saying All In, Evolution, Saturday night's main event, NXT. That's probably not a good thing to say when we're here promoting Saturday night's main event and kind of getting hyped up about it, but it's because the card is so small. But it's small, but will it be impactful? Let's get into the next match here, Lucas. We're moving away from the US title and now talking about another non-title match, but again, 2 heavy hitters in the WWE. We've got Drew McIntyre facing off against Randy Orton. As was mentioned in the comments earlier on and by yourself, Lucas, Jelly Roll is in the corner of Randy Orton. So we're going to see some shenanigans here. It's surely leading towards SummerSlam and a tag match with Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre together, which is something I didn't really see me ever saying. But maybe it's not going to be that. Maybe it's going to be Logan and someone else. But what are your thoughts on this match here? Is it simply to fuel the SummerSlam feud?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So when the match first got announced, obviously last week, obviously the episode on 4th of July was pre-taped, so that obviously led to spoilers and stuff. Obviously Drew McIntyre returned that episode. I was like, it's a bit random, but it is also just like, okay, so they need another match for the show, so it's like, okay, we just do it now. But then the minute Jelly Roll got involved, I was like, oh, okay, now this makes sense. Now the interesting thing they're going to have here is that I already kind of felt there was a bit of disingenuity between Randy Orton and Jelly Roll, as it seemed very random. Like, it seems like just 2 very random people.
Yeah.
But I do believe that they can make that somewhat work in this program, particularly with Randy Orton being the babyface. But on the other side of things, I just feel that Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre just are polar opposites.
Yeah, doesn't make much sense.
And other than just being the villains who want to take Randy Orton out, take the celebrity out, I don't see what the appeal would be for them as a team. So potentially, I don't know if they're going to do someone else team with Logan Paul. But also, why would someone team with Logan Paul? Like, he's made it very clear. His behaviour and character has made it very clear that, like, he's not one to really be trusted being part of a tag team with.
You know what? I actually think this is the time to bring in Jake Paul and have them to team up, because I think that would make a lot more sense. As you say, Drew doesn't really fit in with Logan. Other than the only, best case scenario for Drew is that at the end of SummerSlam, he drops Logan Paul and people cheer. That's the best case scenario I think we've got for Drew McIntyre.
The only thing I can kind of say is that something they tend to do quite a lot of this. They do put the celebrities in with people who they see as quote unquote trusted hands. And I do think they probably see Drew as a very trusted hand, and that's why, to be the thing is, you know what, who would be perfect for this actually? The Miz, like genuinely, like he would.
Yeah.
He
Typical
would
celeb cameo match, yeah.
I know obviously at the moment he's filming American Gladiators, and again I don't think he's been on a PLE in about two years now, I think. But yeah, he'd be perfect to sell this. He could honestly sell like water in the desert. He's one of those guys. But the Drew, it feels like a very weird fit. But yeah, it definitely feels like it is going to be more of an advertisement for SummerSlam than a match per se. This is more talking about SummerSlam, which I'm all for. Like I get that these shows should be almost when we discussed it in the year, didn't we? Especially when they had didn't they have one on Rumble weekend, didn't they? We discussed that they should have been using these as like a sort of part one or a pre-show to the next pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And they're deciding, for whatever reason, to ignore Evolution. So the next pay-per-view after Evolution is SummerSlam. And it's coming along fast. Like, it's 3 weeks away, isn't it? Is it 3 weeks or 4 weeks? It's 3 weeks, yeah. It's 3 weeks away. And at the moment, we only know that John Cena will face Cody Rhodes and that Jade Cargill will face whoever wins is still the women's champion on the SmackDown brand out of Tiffany Stratton or Trish Stratus.
Yeah.
And it does seem now we probably will get. I reckon they're gonna just, based on obviously off NXT tonight when they were happy just to book matches straight away for Tuesday. I think we might see the match now can happen like straight away. So after whatever happens in the ring, I think we will just have it's been confirmed for SummerSlam. This is happening. But again, not knowing the details of the deal, Jelly Roll is on. Like, is he going to be there every week? There's 3 weeks left to promote this match. Or is it just a case of he was just there for this weekend and they're going to do the match in a few weeks' time? So I'd imagine they want to just hot shot the announcement of that tag match, get it everywhere to get. Because again, going off, like you said, like talking points, I know, yes, Jelly Roll's not on the same level as like a Roman Reigns or a CM Punk or Rock or someone else like big, like returning or being part of something big. I think it's still like there's enough traction, and they know what they're doing with this celebrity stuff. They know that it opens up the good and the bad because you get people who are fans of Jelly Roll, and you're more welcome to be. I think he's got some good songs, and they will be all here for it. But as wrestling fans, some of them don't like it, and so they know they're going to get both. But it's still reaction and sort of talk coming out off of their event. So I imagine it to be. I'll be very surprised if we don't see a match graphic for SummerSlam appear as soon, relatively soon after this match segment has finished.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the Jelly Roll thing is going to be hit and miss no matter what. I think a lot of people stepped back a little bit last night when they were like, man, the guy's lost a lot of weight. That was just something to just kind of admire in itself. But look, it is what it is. It is SummerSlam. Do I wish someone like Drew was in a better position? Of course I do. I do like the irony of Logan Paul's story of saying, we don't like outsiders like you. Some people are annoyed by that even, but I'm like, no, they just get the best out of it.
Doing Logan Paul. He knows what he's doing.
Exactly. And of course, Randy Orton comes out to defend him because of that as well. We've got some big stuff going on in AEW. Anyone want to know what's going on?
What's happened?
So, Christian's stable have turned on him, and they went to give him the concerto, and Edge has come out, or Cope as he's known these days, and they've, at the moment, so far so good, reunited.
That's good.
Oh, he says to him, find yourself, and he's just walked off as Christian falls to the mat. So it looks like we're going back into that story, which is nice. Two legends. Edge is one thing, coming back at the Rumble. Everybody knows how exciting that was. But Christian, to have this extra bit of his career as well after being basically phased out by WWE, you got to admire it. But hey, that's AEW talk. Let's stick to WWE for now. And let's get back to some of these questions and comments. We've got Daniel Wiley says, does Jimmy need a title run? But will it be tonight? Again, I don't really think it will be tonight. And I like Lucas's idea of reuniting the Usos instead. Not too excited, but if I rank all WWE shows, says Aiden, it would go Evolution first. If we're comparing WWE, I'd be the same. NXT second, and Saturday Night's main event third. Aiden also says, Daniel, I think he wins tag titles with Jay at SummerSlam. That's a possibility as well. And also says Jelly Rowan at Randy Orton versus Logan and Jake Paul, in my opinion. Again, the same sort of thing I was saying earlier on. I think it's the perfect time, really, to bring in Jake Paul at the moment. Drew fights the winner of Cody versus Cena at the Australia show, says Aiden. And MWA Music with Alex is back in the house. Good to see you, buddy. How's it going? Oh, something you might find cool. 2 weeks ago, I got Jeff Hardy tattoo. Hope you're excited for the show tonight. Fantastic, mate. Describe the tattoo to us. That's pretty cool. Big fan of Jeff Hardy. Did you get something like his artwork or something like that? Or was it of Jeff himself? Let us know. Aiden's being nice and welcoming Alex back into the chat as well. And Alex also says Cope and Christian reuniting TLC one last time. Oh, mate, I don't think they should be doing a TLC match, but it's good to see them back together. And it's good to see you back in the house, Alex, as well. Always good to see the old names popping up every now and then. And I know there's a few of you lurking in the background that haven't commented yet. Hey, let us know what you think is going to happen at Saturday night's main event and what you think of this crazy weekend in professional wrestling as well. What you're doing at the moment is you are watching the build-up show for Saturday night's main event. We're also going to have one for Evolution, of course, on Sunday night. It's going to get us all hyped up and in the mood for the big PLE, and that's the idea of it. We like to kind of have these slightly more relaxed streams when we do these build-up shows. You know, we talk snacks, we have a few drinks, we have some games sometimes. There's last-minute rumours. We also kind of just go off on tangents and things like that as well. So if you've got any thing to add to the conversation, let us know in the comments and we'll get to it in due course as well. Let's move into the rest of the Saturday night's main event card, though. We've been talking there about Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. Actually, you know what? We didn't really pick the winner. So, if you had to say, Lucas, who would you go with, Randy Orton or Drew McIntyre?
If Drew's going to be part of the tag match at SummerSlam, then Drew. If Drew's not going to be part of the tag match at SummerSlam, then Randy Orton.
Yeah, I'm kind of seeing exactly the same way. Because you kind of want to make Jelly Roll look good, unless it's about making him look even better at SummerSlam, which it probably is. So, yeah, that kind of makes sense. All right, let's move into what is going to be surely the main event. And this is incredible, Lucas. I know, again, not everybody's a fan of Goldberg. I think we could go 6 hours talking about the man himself right here. But it's a big topic because on a weekend as big as what we've got at the moment, you would expect, you know, on any weekend of the year, that Goldberg's retirement match would be one of the biggest stories of the wrestling calendar. And while it's important, it has been squeezed in on a crazy counter-programming weekend, which I feel bad for him as much as I feel bad for the girls in Evolution and those involved with NXT. But ultimately, this has been promoted as Goldberg's last match. Will it be? Maybe, especially in WWE. But what do we think is going to happen? I mean, the big thing here is that it might create controversy. I mentioned it last night on Friday night's big preview. If he wins, people are going to be upset. But I do think if there's any character to win a world title rather than going out on their back, it's probably Goldberg. This is a man synonymous with winning quick and winning convincingly. This is a man who has destroyed people in WCW. Didn't quite do the same in 2003, was booked differently in WWE at the time, but when he came back to the WWE, he was certainly overbooked as a monster once again, even though he was up there in age. Now, can we see him going out the same way? I kind of can, as I say, with any other character, maybe not, but with Bill Goldberg, and especially holding up the big gold belt, again, the lineage is something that can be kind of talked about for days as well, and the design looks a little different, but the image of Goldberg basically holding up the WCW title as he retires is quite a powerful one. Now, if that is the case, there will be a lot of controversy surrounding it. There will be a lot of modern fans who don't quite get Goldberg, who don't agree with it. But for someone like me, I kind of don't see a massive deal in it this time for this one special occasion with this one character and this one title. There are arguments that it's damaging to the title, but that's another conversation for a little bit away because I think there's a way out of that in a little bit. But what are your thoughts on Goldberg potentially holding up the big gold belt one more time and the potential backlash it might create?
He's got to win, surely. Because the fact they moved the belt back onto Gunther for this program, and the fact it's in his hometown, which, look, don't get me wrong, they have done a thing where hometown wrestlers constantly kind of lose, but it's like you can't do that all the time. And there is obviously, like I said, there's the big get out of jail free card that they've got with this. And what I believe will be happening is that Goldberg will win the championship, and Seth Rollins will cash in his briefcase, his contract, and become the new champion. Now, interestingly though, I don't know whether they want to do that same night or not. Now,
that's the point.
They might leave it for Raw, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's a good
Give
point.
Goldberg the win and have the pay-per-view, have the show end, on a positive kind of note. Then Goldberg comes out to do the whole thank you promo on Raw or whatever, gets attacked by Rollins' stable.
That's a good, yeah.
But, again, with this whole counter-programming thing coming in, and the fact that I think under normal circumstances, if tomorrow night was not a woman's pay-per-view, they would have done Goldberg winning tonight for the cash-in tomorrow on the whatever the pay-per-view was. So say because it was Rumble weekend, for example, and they would have done that. But I think, obviously, with the next event after this that men are eligible to compete at, which is really a weird sentence to say, being Monday Night Raw, I think that would give these things time to breathe. And all they need really, because like I said, all they want really is to have the talking point ending the night. And the talking point ending tonight is Goldberg as champion, and cue he was awful when he beat the Fiend, and I don't want this.
It was true though, it's true, but yeah.
But it would cue all those comments, all those reactions, all those videos. We'll be on it. We'll be on streams talking about it all the time.
Yeah.
All these possibilities, what's going to happen. And, because again, the minute someone wins, something changes, people instantly go to what's next. Like, okay, so now what? Who's Goldberg going to face at SummerSlam? Is he going to have a rematch against Gunther? Is he going to face so-and-so? Is he going to face so-and-so? You know what I mean? But then it's like a case of they just, pull the rug from under us again on Monday night and then do the cash-in. And it's like, okay, it was done because of this. Now, it's a very interesting one because the reason why I feel this, by the way, is I just feel a bit like, just let Goldberg go out how Goldberg came in, essentially.
The way he was always presented, yeah.
It's just let him do what he does best, and him, he lost a lot, like during that last run, he lost to Drew, he lost to numerous people that last kind of run. Roman he lost to, Lashley, so it wasn't like he just came back and squashed everyone. Definitely, yes, there was moments like the Fiend, win and that kind of stuff. But he lost when he needs to lose, and in a weird way, I'd argue now he almost can't like him losing again. Like doesn't really.
Yeah, maybe it's almost too much for him to lose because I think you're right. When you look at the latter end of his run, they did start to pull back a little bit on Super Goldberg. One thing I will say is it's not pleasant seeing him limp around as much as he is, and I'm fearful for the quality of the match and the risks that might kind of bring up. But maybe we'll touch on that a little bit more in a bit. But I mean, you bring up a great point. Monday Night Raw cashing in there does solve part of the problem, some so-called problem, but it almost creates a new problem at the same time of people coming out of this show and going, this is why AEW is better, because they don't do stupid things like Goldberg winning. Because there will be people, as much as we say as nostalgia merchants that we are, I mean, I'm wearing an NWO shirt, baby. We know what WCW was. We know what Goldberg's run in that company was. And we would appreciate it for that reason. There are people that don't see it that way, and they would... look, even I would be ordinarily a bit annoyed by Goldberg winning, but it's a different case here. So, but I still think there'll be so many people that would have a problem with it. That
Chris Jericho was world champion like a year or two ago.
Yeah, I know. But going into... What I'm saying is, coming out of this weekend, and with Goldberg as the champ, I think it's going to annoy a lot of people.
Okay, but here's something for you, and maybe people in the comments. If Gunther wins, if there's no cash-in, who the hell is he facing next?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with you that I think they've given the title back.
On the back of a postcard, please. Like, literally.
Look, I think they've given it back to Gunther for this match so that he can lose to Goldberg. Because otherwise, I mean, but at the same time, because this match could have been just them two, because they're similar enough as it is, as far as I said earlier on last night's stream, big meaty men slapping meat. You know, they are those kind of characters. They don't need a belt, so the belt's in it for a reason. So I do think it probably is for Goldberg to win. I'm not sure if the Raw thing, as much as I like the idea, because Goldberg then comes out with a speech, I do like that as a fan myself. I just think it's risky for the internet fans and stuff like that, you know, and the modern fan, the way people kind of rant about things online.
Was it Nick Khan, the comment that's been doing the rounds? I'm probably going to try and butchered it a little bit, but you know, they have kind of said they're not doing stuff for internet fans. They're doing stuff for the people buying tickets.
I mean, that's the way it was when Goldberg was winning stuff.
I think that although yes, they're not going to like be deaf to the comments, and the thing is, I think what we kind of forget is that they do know this stuff. You know, even back in the Vince days, like he knew certain things that he did would elicit certain reactions and how to kind of push buttons. And even more so now on this TKO era, like I think that the people within WWE side of things know certain things that should annoy fans, and that fans will have a reaction no matter what. But I think, moving the title for me, just moving the title of this program, and still leaving tonight with Gunther as your world champ is just the most tone-deaf move you can make, because there's nobody for him to face. Like that, you know, and you've only got 3 weeks of TV now to set something else up for him.
I mean, just simply Seth cashing in is the only other option, right? Yeah, but that needs a distracting feud for him to face somewhere else. You're right.
Seth face Gunther, or if they are really going to get petty with this, have Gunther then face CM Punk. At some
possible,
he has to lose. This is the thing. I think whatever option is for Gunther next, he loses, because you know, they can't look. I like Gunther. I think a lot of people like Gunther, but we can't ignore the fact that he had 2 championship reigns last year. That, well, even though it was a good moment that when he lost to Sami at WrestleMania, it was to the wrong person, and then he had the World Heavyweight Championship for months and did absolutely nothing with it.
Yeah.
You know, was very lackluster as champion. And so we're going back to that. And his last opponent, like someone said about the last people he's faced, you know, Jey Uso, Otis, Akira Tozawa, Pat McAfee. Those are like...
When you put it like that, good point.
That way, like, this guy should be eating through like your Sheamuses, your Rusevs, you know, like, but they're just not booking that for whatever reason, and it probably goes into the bigger thing of this company as a whole. Biggest problem with this company as a whole, like they're not booking what they should be booking. Yeah, they're choosing actively to get themselves into situations where they are having to constantly choose in a rock and a hard place. The rock in this case is the fact that if Gunther leaves a champion tonight, there is nobody built up for him to face. And so then they have to then return to their default thing of triple threat matches to do a tournament to determine who will face Gunther. And there's a random person will win it, and then at SummerSlam they lose to Gunther. You know, or they decide, okay, Punk and him had a little altercation 2 weeks ago, that's going to start a feud. But then, like, Punk has to win the championship at SummerSlam, and you're then sprinting towards, you know, a moment really that should be a real big like build up to, you know, in this company. Obviously, if CM Punk is to win a world championship, you know, at this point, you're going to give that program like 3 weeks to television. That should be build up to over like 3 months. You know, 3 months, a couple of matches in, and then you do the title change. You know, or you leave with Goldberg as champ, and obviously at the moment we're taking his word of it being his last one as legit. I think it is. Like, I think that he's still
unless he's unhappy with something, I think it's his last WWE match. Unless he's unhappy and he does something with AEW or himself, like he kind of threatened to do so in the first place, or then even comes back to WWE for an actual final match eventually because he's ruined that.
With him limping about, and, like,
it's got to be right.
I think this is it. I think he knew at one point this was maybe off the table, and he managed to get it back on the table. And obviously, he's in a situation now where I think it's like 10,000, 12,000 people are coming to Atlanta to see him. And this is another reason. I mean, people obviously a few years ago we had Ric Flair's last match, didn't we? Take place with, you know, on Jim Crockett's promotion banner and stuff. End of the day, that show was a 1-match card. Every single person in that building was there.
True.
Ric Flair only, and he got that shot to do what he did. And look, as we mentioned, the match was dog awful in terms of his parts of it anyway. But he somehow got through it.
Yeah.
As of today, the 12th of July, 2025, it remains still his last match. Though, yeah, we never know in the world of wrestling.
Yeah, never know.
We could get a part 2.
Yeah.
But in terms of Goldberg, yeah, I think he'll have to assess that, look, this has to be it. And it is a shame that, they couldn't have just done this show next weekend, potentially. I know TNA's next weekend, but, I don't think that would have been too much of an issue.
Yeah.
Or even a weekend afterwards where it could have been given space to breathe. And that's probably the biggest problem that we've got. Nothing's really given space to breathe. But look, I've only just finished processing, the stuff that's happened at Great American Bash, and I want to talk about that a little bit to people. But we're literally an hour away now from starting the main event. And then obviously, by the time that's done, we're then having to be like, okay, evolution mode.
Yeah, and again, within that, big things that are kind of fans are emotionally invested in. Evolution 2 is a big deal, and it's been kind of understood. And again, we'll touch on this a bit more tomorrow. But this is Goldberg, as you say. People went to Ric Flair's last match for that match. There will be people, as you kind of alluded to there, going to Atlanta for this because they're big Goldberg marks over the years. I look, these are the things. Let's focus on the positives, right? The match itself might be a bit ropey. It's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how they play into it, but the promo package alone of Goldberg's career, I think, is going to make me emotional because this is a man that's kind of, he's been a big part of the wrestling industry. People wanted to downplay it at times. Of course, when he came back to the WWE, they kind of, toyed around with kind of pretending he was, a flash in the pan sort of thing. But realistically, he was a massive part of WCW, which was a massive part of wrestling's history. So I'm hoping it for him. I hope it does go out in a positive way, even if he is on his back looking up at the lights, the traditional way, the old timers seem to go out. But again, for his character, I wouldn't be surprised if it went the other way. Let's get into some of these comments here as well. Aiden says Goldberg wins in 4 minutes, and then Seth cashes in either Roman costs Seth, which could happen, or cashes in and Roman attacks Seth and he wins the belt. Also, Daniel Wiley wants to know what time it's on tonight. So it's on at 1 a.m. here in the UK. So you're about an hour away from it here in the UK. Tony also says Gunther should drop it, but I think it just to make him look more impressive, even though he doesn't need it as far as giving the title onto him. Aiden talking about future opponents for Gunther says versus Drew. That would be a fantastic match. Probably more believable than the next one, which is Gunther versus Ilya. And that's no disrespect to Ilya, but they're not going to be putting him in a world title picture anytime soon, right? As much as those matches between those two guys were fantastic, I think the first one is more likely, which would also be a decent feud. But it's kind of messy, right? He's over on the other side. He's probably going into that tag match with Jelly Roll, which is, again, a weird thing to even say. Tony says they didn't even build him up well for Goldberg, booking his lazy outside a couple of people. Yeah, I mean, look, this is a long time coming in some ways. So in some ways I go against your comment there, but at the same time I do understand what you're saying because they've kind of just thrown it back together all of a sudden. They give him the belt back quickly, and that's what makes me think this is all about the title itself. CM Punk wins the Rumble and then the title at Mania, says Aiden. I'm leaning into what Lucas was saying a little while ago about... was it you that was saying about Sami Zayn potentially? Yeah, so I'm leaning into that. But look, CM Punk going after Seth Rollins, who has the belt, also makes sense as well. A few more comments here. I can see Alex talking about his tattoo. Alex, we're going to get to that in a bit. Don't you worry. I want to know all about your tattoo. But let's carry on with a little bit more talk about... I nearly said Jeff Hardy there because of the tattoo itself. But Goldberg versus Gunther. There is the scenario, as we said, that Seth Rollins cashes in. Now, Lucas has mentioned how that could happen on Monday Night Raw. As a few people said in the comments, and as I mentioned last night on Friday night's big preview, it could happen at the end of the show to kind of make up for the title not kind of ending with Goldberg. Because if Goldberg wins, he has to relinquish the title. Then what? Is a competition, a tournament, and that's a bit kind of far-fetched. You have a cash-in opportunity. You have a Money in the Bank briefcase. It is your get-out-of-jail-free card, so use it. But does that counter kind of the original idea of Goldberg stands tall in his final ever match, only for him to not be standing tall and laying on the floor? Or is that just the best of both worlds?
See, it just depends. Like, I think the shift to get... Oh, we lost Scott. I will keep talking while Scott is away. I think the shift to get the belt onto Goldberg has proven that... Oh, you're back. Oh, no, okay, yeah, that's fine. So I was saying, the shift to get the belt onto Goldberg, onto Gunther, sorry, kind of proves that they wanted the belt in this program.
Yeah.
And potentially they were looking at it to sell shift tickets for this event. And given the fact that obviously this event has no WWE Championship match on it, no WWE Women's World Championship match on it, it does look like, what would have been the match otherwise? Like Jey Uso would have been defending against, don't know, I literally don't know. So, in terms of your question, if it's the best of both worlds, I think it's one of those situations where, again, they've got themselves into the situation by their own decision making previously. If they knew they wanted to do Gunther and Goldberg at this event, around WrestleMania time, one could argue just keep the belt on Gunther then.
Mm.
And then if they want to do the whole side quest that he did against Pat McAfee, fair enough. After that, fair enough. It's still going to work, to be fair. Given, and then the rematch another rematch against Jay, I guess. I would have had that rematch with Jay, then be when Goldberg came back. In this timeline, when Goldberg comes back, and then they could have had an actual proper feud. But they kept booking us into a situation where Goldberg couldn't come back until after that Jey Uso match happened.
Mm.
Then, before you know it, the pay-per-views, the event's now here. I think it all then also depends what they want for SummerSlam with that belt. And as we know, if we are believing Goldberg's word that he is going to have his last match tonight, then he can't then be at SummerSlam as champion. So you then have to factor in what program you want for SummerSlam, which they realistically shouldn't be doing like 3 weeks before for the World Heavyweight Championship. That should be something they've decided long before this. But in terms of getting what they need out this weekend, I think, yes, that would get what they need, as well as if they also choose to do the promo on Raw with Goldberg and stuff like that. But I do think he will stick to his word. And I don't know why I'm secretly hoping Bret Hart's in the crowd. I really hope Bret Hart's in the crowd. I think it will just put like the icing on the cake for that match. No matter what goes down.
Like Bret comes in and kicks Goldberg in the head or something.
Or they show him in the crowd, he just turns around.
Like, a la Joe Hendry.
Refusing to watch it.
I can see, because of the AEW situation here, right? I think if I was WWE and I wanted headlines coming out of this, what I'd want is Goldberg won the title, but what a dastardly heel Seth Rollins is, because he cashed in on him straight away and he ruined Goldberg's retirement. But realistically, Goldberg has that lovely photograph on his mantelpiece of him holding up the belt in his last ever match. Again, so in that way, it gives you the best of both worlds as well. Just going to get to some of these comments here. Aiden agrees that a tournament will probably be awful if Goldberg was to win and then give up the title. We've got to remember, this is, again, we talk about it being the lineage of the old Big Gold and the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship in the past, but WWE kind of and ah about how they kind of feel about that themselves. So if we're considering it a new title, relinquishing it and doing a tournament is not a good look for it. At the same time, the new title thing plays into Seth's kind of quest for it, because he felt like he really made it mean something in that first year. So I really do think Seth is going after that belt sooner rather than later anyway. Another comment here from Anfield who says, I'm there for Saturday night's main event and I'm 90% sure I saw Brock Lesnar. Really? And of course he could have been there for a different reason. Not WWE, but you never know. All right, Anfield, are you sure you saw Brock Lesnar? You know what? Kind of touching on that quickly, I did see that they started selling these flannel shirt again. Did you notice that? You never know. Aiden says, I'm going to go, everyone. Speak soon. Tomorrow for Evolution. And one final sentence. No Scotland, no party. Aiden, good to have you in the house, mate. Hope you're doing well. Hope you have a good sleep. And enjoy Saturday night. Or enjoy Saturday night's main event if you're watching it live. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow for the build-up show for Evolution. Speaking of which, you can join us as well for Evolution build-up show. The whole point of these shows is to get us hyped up and in the mood and get you guys hyped up and in the mood for the big PLE. Tomorrow it will be Evolution, but of course tonight it is Saturday night's main event. And what a main event we got in it. Of course, Bill Goldberg in his final match against Gunther. And looking to capture the big gold belt on one last occasion. Will he do it? Will Gunther hold on to it? We've barely talked about the idea of Gunther holding on to it, Lucas. So let's kind of touch on that scenario. We've talked about the kind of what happens if Gunther keeps the belt, who's he face next sort of thing. But let's talk about just the end of the show. Goldberg's on his back. Gunther holds up the belt. What happens next? Does Gunther go mad, start beating him, someone makes a save? Probably not. Maybe his son, actually. Maybe. Or does Gunther win the belt, keep the belt, walk out the ring, and Goldberg gets up, says his final goodbye, and we fade to black? What happens if Gunther wins tonight?
I don't know. I think outside of the only other thing I can see happening actually, if Gunther wins, Rollins goes to cash in, Punk stops him, Gunther attacks Punk, and that's how they then use that to get to Gunther and Punk next month. Because the only other option, another option they could have for the Money in the Bank briefcase is that Seth is going to cash in on Punk when Punk wins. So there's another opportunity potentially as soon as next month if they go for that as a SummerSlam feud. They do it that way. Or if they want Rollins to fail the cash in, that could also exist in this universe where Gunther retains, starts to get beaten up by Seth's faction. Seth does the cash in, Punk comes and costs Seth because Punk obviously did the same with Drew last year.
Yeah.
But that he could argue that's probably a bit like repeating things.
And even with M2, as much as I enjoyed that, the one kind of issue was that, oh, you've cost them again. Oh, you've cost them again. And if we start getting out with Seth and Punk, it's going to be problematic. Yeah.
They had a whole steel cage match planned for Square Garden, a WrestleMania main event, obviously featuring Roman Reigns as well. But still, it's like I think it is turning into that match where they know that it's decent. It's a decent match.
I think it makes sense. If Rollins wins the title, then Punk versus Rollins at SummerSlam is a pretty good plan B for what we were supposed to clearly get a few years back when Punk came back for the world title at WrestleMania. I think it solves a lot of problems and gets it out of the way. And Punk can even win then. I know that'd be sort of hot potato in the title between 2-3 months. We've gone from Gunther to Jay to Gunther to maybe Goldberg, then Seth and Punk. But if it's a new title, it needs Reigns to push up there anyway. Speaking of CM Punk, Aiden is going to sleep, so we're GTSing out of here. Good to have you with us again, Aiden. Appreciate your comments either way. And for those lurking in the background, hey, thank you as well. But drop your comments, guys. We want to know what you think is going to happen tonight, Saturday night's main event, and what you're looking forward to seeing as well. Right now, what I was going to say as well is about his son. His son's got to show up, right?
Yeah, I'm assuming they do his whole family's in the front row.
Yeah. But I think his son's going to get physical.
Yeah, I mean, he more than can. He's more capable of doing it. It's still bonkers. Obviously, when Goldberg beat Lesnar, obviously at Survivor Series 2016, which is now almost a decade ago.
Wow.
Obviously he was the typical, young kid, kind of chubby young kid, wasn't he? That got brought over for some reason not wearing a shirt.
Yeah. I don't know why they did that.
And it was that was a nice moment they did for him back then.
Yeah.
But now obviously he's very much gauged. It's very much an adult and would be able to do stuff if necessary. With this, and this may even be where we do see this happen, because again, going off the fact that, in my opinion, they got a few options for the match itself in terms of how they do it, and there's only really one I want to see, but there's two that work, and there's definitely one that doesn't work, and those being the one that I want to see the most is just a squash. I just want to see I want to see the typical sub 3-minute squash of Gunther.
Yeah.
As much as, yes, I know that will enrage the internet, it possibly is the best option.
It's not for Gunther, though, is it? I mean, he already had that weak tap out against Jay. So...
Yeah, I mean, he tapped out like that. That was... But again, that still followed a long match. It kind of made sense. But in terms of like this match, like you're looking at the fact you're having to protect the fact that Goldberg can't really do much, and so I think
it has to be short.
option.
Yeah, it has to be short.
The other
I
option
think
is they do.
you got to save it. You could save it by Gunther, like what Goldberg did against Regal, whacking his head into the post and just making a big fatal error. Essentially, that's the only way around to protect Gunther in a short match.
Yeah, I mean, I'd still say you give Gunther quite a lot of offense at the start and stuff, but I mean, if I was road agent, if I was producing this match, I'd say you wouldn't really want to get in a position where Gunther is kind of bumping Goldberg more than once, ideally, like, or having Goldberg having to do lots of running about and stuff.
Yeah.
The other option is they do the kind of sports entertainment long in and out things, so they have an angle as part of it, where potentially, like I said, Gage gets involved, potentially Gunther gets in his face outside, all that kind of stuff, and so they long it out, they pad it out with stuff that's not wrestling, essentially. So whether it is like a back and forth between Gage and Gunther, whether it is potentially like Rollins' stable coming in and getting involved or joining on commentary, whatever it's going to be. Then obviously the third and like most like option I don't want to see is them just having a 10-minute match. Yeah, it's just a particular.
It's rare that's the option we don't want.
Yeah,
like the longer match.
Is with Goldberg winning.
Yeah,
the 10-minute match if Goldberg loses is better than that one if he wins. Does that make sense? In my opinion, like I think if he loses and it's 10 minutes long, it's like he's like tried his best, like it's his last effort, our last chance, and it longs out their investment with it, I guess.
Yeah.
But if he then like wins over 10 minutes, you'll be a bit like you do risk obviously the finish, not being the best.
Yeah, and it's tough, right? Because again, you kind of got to protect if he's going to lose. You've got to protect Gunther. So traditionally, you'd give the longer match. You'd kind of make him come close, but this is why I think maybe it is a silly thing, like he runs into the post or he kind of tries to be dirty tactics with it, hits himself with a chair or something like that because, the sun gets involved to kind of even things up because otherwise it's dangerous for Gunther. But as you say, it's also dangerous for the way, Goldberg's booked to kind of go 10 minutes and then still win. It won't be that much of an entertainment match where they could set it like kind of like boxing, like when Goldberg's whole thing is that he's explosive. That's how they've explained the squashes in recent years. They've said, Goldberg just likes the early matches. He gets you and he hits you with a spear, jackhammer, boom, you're done. And they've even tried to play up to that a few times in the past where they say, we're getting past Goldberg's comfort zone now. We're getting a few minutes into it. And that's kind of like when you watch boxing and certain fighters are explosive, but then after, 4 or 5 rounds, they're struggling to kind of, if they don't do it in that time, they're not doing it in the 9th or the 10th or anything like that. And that maybe could be the story they tell with Goldberg here, that once he gets to 7 minutes or 8 minutes, he hasn't got it anymore. And he couldn't do it in 2 minutes like he used to. So that itself could be a good story to tell. But again, like you say, you do run the risk of it becoming sloppy and boring and then feeling like the wrong result on top of a sloppy, boring match.
I mean, the other thing to play devil advocate here is like, much as he has been limping and stuff, like are they going OTT with this injury / these problems to kind of help some of that feedback not exist in the match. Like if it's a case of if the match is really good, it's like he's pushed through his injuries.
Yeah, fair play to him, sort of thing.
If the match isn't good, you go he went injured, so that was the reason. But look, I think either way though, we've been talking about it now for a long time. This match is probably in terms of WWE scope anyway, like the biggest match they're presenting this weekend. In terms of over the 3 events that they've got. I think that Evolution has a very good card, and again, we will get to that tomorrow night. Remember, tomorrow night, Evolution is starting 1 hour earlier, so we will update people on our socials at the time where we begin the stream. But we look to cover a lot about that, about the scheduling, and about all different bits and pieces. And this is a show which we talk about not much build for this show. It's in Saturday's main event. Wow, Evolution's been even worse, isn't it?
But the card itself still very promising, and that's what I'm holding on to.
One of those where, again, we've got a lot to speak about that, and that's obviously coming up tomorrow night. So please do join us for that. We appreciate you obviously for joining us all the time. But yeah, I think in terms of this match and Goldberg, this show, things, even kind of how they put the belt in that picture, it's like right between them, but it's kind of almost more on Goldberg's shoulder. Like it's kind of, I know it maybe.
He's already the champ. Look at him. He's got it on his shoulder.
But I think this is one of those ones as well where it's very much like a one match kind of card, though, isn't it? In terms of everything going on at the moment.
Yeah, like I say, this is arguably the biggest. I mean, it might not be the biggest story that comes out of the weekend, or the probably not going to be the best match, but it's massive. Again, it's Goldberg's final match is something on its own. That could be that's WrestleMania worthy. Let's put it that way. But there are a lot of great things they could do here to kind of again honor Goldberg, but also progress storyline as well. And Seth Rollins. Worst case scenario is. I can't believe I'm saying this, but worst case scenario might even be Gunther just winning, and that's the end of the show. Do you know what I mean? There's no surprise. Like I kind of want Goldberg to win for not only him, but the controversy it will create, and then getting, Seth to do something crazy. I mean, that would be. If I rank them, the best case scenario is Goldberg wins, Seth beats him. Yeah. The second best thing is Goldberg wins, even though it annoy people. And the third one is Gunther wins, which is crazy that I'm saying that because I like Gunther and I want to protect him and the title.
I'd probably add, in between that, I'd probably add Gunther winning with Seth, get Seth cashing in on Gunther as third.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, true. Which is crazy, right? Because we're Gunther fans, like it is strange
because of how they've done this reign and how this is. They've put themselves into the corner, haven't they? Because if this wasn't for a championship, and we all live in
it'd just be a bit of fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And we live in a world where they don't give us 4 to 5 match pay-per-views on a regular. We'd have been able to enjoy more matches, and more. There'd be more. There'd be more opportunities to talk about other people. But with this one, it's a case of for the World Heavyweight Championship, the title picture is for SummerSlam is the following. Either Gunther is facing someone who, at the moment, that person has zero build-up. Going into tonight, the only person he has history and feud thing with at the moment would be Jey Uso, and we don't want to go back to that again.
Yeah.
Or you're having Goldberg win, and potentially go back on his word about this being his last match, and then risking doing something at SummerSlam with Goldberg, who at the moment we're going to say his condition is indeterminable. We don't know whether it's worse or better than what he's making out. And again, do you go to SummerSlam with him as champion to face who? Like, does he have a rematch against Gunther? Does he face... Yeah, again, you've only got 3 weeks to build that up as well. Or we're going with Seth Rollins cashing in, and then that opens up multiple options for Seth as he's feuding with half of the roster at the moment. So, and he's got a stable involved. So there's lots there, for it. And so, in years past, it'd be much clearer for us to say, okay, this can be because they don't often do these matches without belts now. It's a thing, isn't it? Like before, they were very good at doing them without belts.
Yeah,
the first Goldberg Lesnar match.
It doesn't need a belt, but it's got one for a reason, right? So I think we're both leaning in that direction. Abula wants to know what's going on here. Abula, what you've joined us on is the build-up show to Saturday night's main event. We're not going to be here for much longer, guys, but we appreciate everyone that's tuned in for this stream. The idea is to get you hyped up and in the mood for the PLE and us as well. Again, I keep saying PLE. It's not quite PLE, but a special event either way on quite a special weekend in pro wrestling. WWE themselves do have a PLE tomorrow, though, with Evolution. We're going to have a build-up show for that very reason as well, to get you hyped up and in the mood. But we're going to start making our way out of here very, very soon. Before we do, I promised it earlier on, I did want to get back to the comment from Music with Alex, who says what his tattoo looks like. It says, to be honest, it's just a Hardy's logo. That's nice. Purple one half and black half on the other half. It's kind of got a double meaning. It's a reminder to live a risk-taking lifestyle every day like Jeff did. Nice, mate. Sounds like a cool tattoo to get, and of course it has a personal meaning to you, so that's even better as well. Side note, really like what the Hardy Boys are doing these days. They are insane how they can go up and down in relevance and up and down in kind of cool factor as well. And at the moment, they're at the high level of that once more. So I do really appreciate what they've been doing recently. Look, as I say, we are getting towards the end of the stream now. AEW, would you believe it, is still on. I think we've got 2 more matches. The Okada-Omega match and
Definitely going to go into
World. They are literally going right over it, which is going to be which fair play to them. I know it's a meme that they go on too long. As I said earlier on, for All In, you would expect it because it's their biggest show of the year. But I think they've kind of done this because of, you know what, you want to start at that time and then mess us up and we go early to try and make it fair, and then you give us another show, NXT, to battle with at our start time. You know what, screw it, we're going to go all the way into your second show as well.
I've just I don't know if this is a typo, but I've just seen that the women's match was 45 minutes long.
No, it didn't feel 45 minutes long. It was. I was watching it in the background. It didn't feel 45 minutes, but anyway, I wouldn't be surprised if they're doing this on purpose to kind of edge into at least the start of Saturday night's main event. Say, look, you want to counter us twice? We'll at least play your game once and kind of get there as well. But look, who am I to complain, Lucas? It's been a great weekend of pro wrestling. We're only halfway bloody through it, mate. Not even that, considering this show hasn't finished, AEW. But yeah, loads more to talk about tomorrow, as we said, with the Evolution build-up show. But we've been chatting Saturday night's main event here tonight. Hope you've enjoyed the stream. Before we get out of here, just want to say, Lucas, any more final thoughts on Saturday night's main event?
Well, no. I mean, we've covered kind of everything, and it's just a case now of trying to endure it through the adverts or skip it in the morning. And yeah, looking forward to tomorrow night and dealing with obviously everything coming up about Evolution.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in tonight. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It's not just build-up shows and previews and predictions and reviews that we do on this channel. We also have the privilege of interviewing your favourite WWE superstars on this very channel as well. So we've got interviews with the likes of Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Gunther, of course, is going to be featured tonight as well. LA Knight, yeah, we've had a good conversation with him and a great conversation with Drew McIntyre on this very channel. So if you haven't already, go check those out. Subscribe to the channel. Check out the Evolution build-up show tomorrow. And yeah, stick with us here at Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling because we've got a lot more coming your way. Look, we're going to start hanging up our boots now and kind of ducking out of the stream because it's been a long old day. But we appreciate everyone that's joined us, whether you've lurked in the background or you've given us a comment or two as well. We really, really do appreciate having you with us. It's been a fun show previewing Saturday night's main event. Hopefully the show itself is going to be really enjoyable. Nice little note to end on All In. I'm seeing Jim Ross is in the house. And of course, after recently going through his cancer surgery, it's lovely to see a moment like that as well. So what a lovely note to kind of end up on here on this stream as well. But once again, thank you so much for joining us, guys. Enjoy Saturday night's main event. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of talking points coming out of it. And again, we will see you tomorrow for Evolution. Thanks very much. Take care.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.